The time has come for the Annihilape PvP IV deep dive, taking a look at Annihilape's most important stat checks and associated PvP IVs in the Great League, the Ultra League, and the Master League metas. Annihilape is so good, it's good in all three leagues, right? Now, if you're not too familiar with my PvP IV deep dive series, or if at any time in this video you don't really understand what I'm talking about, breakpoints, right? I highly recommend checking out my PvP IVs simplified video, link up above and in the description. Basically, get your feet wet before you dive off into the deep end here. And if you want to reference any of the material in this video in a text-based format, or you want to check out the PvP IV tables that I feature throughout the video, link in the description to my article on GamePress, the Annihilape PvP IV deep dive, featuring all the information in this video, but in a text-based format with hyperlinks to the PvP IV tables that I'll be showcasing throughout the video. Without further ado, let's talk about Annihilape. Before we talk about the PvP IVs, Annihilape has a lot of different charge moves, right? So what's the best charge move combination on Annihilape? And any combination of Shadow Ball, Ice Punch, and Close Combat will be great on Annihilape. In this video, I'm going to be assuming, for the most part, that you're going to be using the Shadow Ball with the Ice Punch. There will be some Close Combat specific moments that are highlighted here, and I don't think that Close Combat is like completely undesirable on Annihilape there, but Shadow Ball is freaking Shadow Ball, and given how charge TMs work, you know, I've been seeing a lot of Night Slash, I've been seeing a lot of Low Sweep on my own personal Annihilape, and the roulette wheel has finally landed on Shadow Ball with Close Combat for me, and there has not been a single time that I've been glad that it's been Close Combat, right? But Ice Punch, I would love for that to be an Ice Punch. Have you ever baited Low Sweep or Close Combat on something so you could land Shadow Ball when double Ice Punch would have just done the job, right? But Charge TMs in Pokemon Go, it's the best feature in the game, preventing me from enjoying Annihilape to the fullest. But me aside though, right, Shadow Ball, Ice Punch, probably the way. But Close Combat does technically have some tech. When it comes to the Great League Annihilape, there are two distinct flavors going on here. You have the high defense, general good kind of Annihilape, and then you have the wacky, high attack, high defense, low HP, Lickitung slaying Annihilapes. So starting out here, I'm going to focus on the general good, the bread and butter, the high bulk, high defense Annihilape, and the defense stat that we're looking at here is going to be 106.17 as a minimum. This defense stat can get you breakpoints to help you out against the Guzzlord in the 1-2, Superior in the 1-1, Trevenant in the 2-1, Altaria in the 2-2, and maybe Charjabug in the 1-1. That last one there is based on Night Slash, which you probably won't be using, but I mean, taking one less damage from Charjabug, who's that gonna hurt? Not you, of course, because you're taking one less damage, right? But at any rate, yeah, 106.17 is the baseline. Now, when it comes to Trevenant and Altaria and Superior, you know, they're all kind of pushing that 106 a bit. Like, Superior is 105.87, the 0.156 Trevenant is 105.97, and then Altaria, you know, I got a whole Altaria PvP IV deep dive, link above and description, telling you why you want to have a bit of an attack weight on your Altaria. And when it comes to the 0.79 Altaria, you want to be pushing like 107.3 on your defense stat. So 106.17, that's the baseline. You definitely want to have a little bit more defense going on than that. When it comes to the HP, 136 is going to be fine for most scenarios, right? But in some specific high-end matchups, like 138 is going to be doing you a lot more favors if you don't have that higher 107 defense as well. So overall, all the IV spreads that I have featured here are going to be really good, but if you like look at some of these lower ones, oh wow, that has the defense. Yeah, like 137 or 136 with the 106.17, right? That's probably going to be less consistent than this one here, which has 107 defense with 136. So just a little extra bit of quality to keep your eyes peeled for. Of course, you could thrift on this defense if you want to get some of those juicy attack breakpoints. Now, if bulk is the name of the game, then how come the rank 1 isn't on this list? Well, this list also has 122.94 attack set as a minimum, because that attack, that ever so slight attack weight, can get a breakpoint on Wish Cache, which can enable the 2-2 shield situation. Now, if you are up against a higher defense weighted Wish Cache than the rank 1, such as the 0.1511 Wish Cache, then having a 123.7 attack would be necessary to get that breakpoint. So, you know, if you're keen on there being some pretty high defense Wishcash out there, then definitely check out the matchup on pvpoke.com to see how much attack per your taste that you'll want to pummel down the Wishcash. Having a higher attack weight as well can give you some advantages against Sableye. It can let you farm down this Wylos just behind one shield. You just pummel it down with the counters. Pretty fantastic. You can get a breakpoint on Swampert and charge move priority on Swampert, which is pretty nice. And with super high attack, you can maybe even get a breakpoint on Cresselia. Against 161 defense on the Cresselia, you could maybe 2-1 it with like roughly 124 on your attack stat. Cresselia really wants to be pushing for 163 defense, but you know, there's only so many Cresselia out there where you can get that defense stat, so higher attack, higher potential you have to get that breakpoint. If you've got over 124 attack, you can also get charge move priority on Dragonair, which can help out in some situations. And then my favorite for the high attack weights here, if you have about 124.4 attack, against Shadow Poliwrath, you can farm it down in the 1-0 shield situation, no throw for your charge moves, and with a post Icy Wind debuff. So you really can't see that on PvPoke super easily, fishing out that post Icy Wind debuff tech there. Yeah, but it's a shadow Pokemon, so you could probably get away with using less than 124.4 attack, but 124.4 gets it against the rank 1, so if you're trying to shoot for consistency there, that's a number to look out for. And then in addition to that, with 124.34 attack, you can get a breakpoint on Clodsire, securing the 0-0 shield situation. If it is a defense-weighted Clodsire, though, like the 0-15-11, well, then you'll need a bit more attack, like the 125.09 on your attack. And if you sort this list, you can see that we're cutting off a little bit shy of having that attack weight there. So you might have to give up a little bit of defense or a little bit of HP in order to get that matchup in. And then if you were thinking about thrifting on either of these two stats to pump up your attack a little bit more, I'd probably thrift on the HP before I'd thrift on the defense, just because those defense breakpoints could be so huge in those matchups. So what is the best Annihilape Great League PvP IV in this situation? Once again, it comes down to what advantages you want to play up. I'm a bit partial to the 0-15-5 because you do get that big HP stat, and then you got the monster 107.85 on your defense stat, you know, protecting yourself against the Trevenants, the Altarias, and everything else scary in the land, while also getting that slight attack weight. Of course, if you do want to pump that attack a little bit higher, you know, then these three are looking pretty good for getting those super cheeky attack breakpoints. But anything in between, probably good. Just keep in mind that 107 with the 136, and if you got less than 107, probably go for the 138 kind of situation, unless you're specifically trying to shoot for a higher attack weight. And if you want to get even higher on the attack weight, well, that's when we get the Lickitung Slayer territory. So here on PvPoke, we got the Annihilape versus Lickitung 1-1 shield situation, and you can see that Annihilape is losing like a chump to the Lickitung. You know, that's not very good. It's got 10 HP and you've got 0 HP, right? There's a attack breakpoint, right? 127.09 against the rank 1 non-best buddy Lickitung. You can get that. So if you set that, you check out the matchup again, Shazam! They can no longer withstand you. They thought they were going to just shield one time and they had it easy squeezy lemon peasy against the Annihilape, and it ain't lemon squeezy at all. They're the lemon Annihilape squeezing because it's got that attack break point. And I don't remember the specific things with the 0-0 and the 2-2, but I think with the 2-2 you end up farming them instead of having to close on the charge move as well. So yeah, getting that attack break point really puts the pressure onto the Lickitung, which is really nice. Now, 127, that can fit the bill, and that will be the baseline that I'm working with, but it is important to be mindful that this is the non-best buddy Lickitung, right? So there are higher defense-weighted Lickitung out there, even outside of being a best buddy. But if you were to just hit level 51, you can see that their defense just got pumped up. If you run the battle again, and you scroll down, you can see now that you need a 128.34 attack stat. So can get a vast majority of Lickitung, right? But for the super high defense ones, well, then you're going to have to be looking at an even higher attack stat. So here I have 34 different IV spreads that can get that attack breakpoint on the rank 1 non-best buddy Lickitung. Obviously having slightly higher attack can help out against slightly higher defense Lickitungs. And only one IV spread of these 34 can get the rank 1 best buddy Lickitung. So what's up with that? I mean, if you look down here, you can see that we can go up to 129.43 on the attack stat. Why is Ryan Swag limiting us with this defense stat shenanigans? Why am I using a 102.26 as a baseline for the defense? And the reason is that Lickitung can get an attack breakpoint right back at you. Let's look at whatever the max attack is, right? So you got max attack Annihilape. You gonna get that. You gonna get that breakpoint. No questions asked. But you notice that he's losing the 0-0 all of a sudden, where previously he was winning. And the thing is that, yeah, no, you're taking 1 extra lick damage because of that defense breakpoint, right? It's even recommending on PvPoke the 13-8-0, right? Even though it doesn't have that bigger attack stat, because you gotta defend yourself from the lick damage. And if you've checked out my Lickitung PvP IV deep dive, link above and description if you haven't already, you know Ryan Swag loves himself those slight attack weighted Lickitungs. You know, you got like the rank 1 level 50 being the 8, 14, 15. Nah, you gotta swag up with the 10, 15, 14, right? And if they have that much of an attack weight, well, now we're looking at that 102.2, which my list here is going to be cut off at. And it's also not too uncommon. I mean, there's only so many like IV spreads that'll have this attack, but the 10, 14, 13 is also like a little bit popular for people that are looking at this. I don't know, I get a lot of messages where people are like, here are my 5 different Lickitung IVs, which one should I pick? And then of the ones they show me, like the 10, 14, 13 ends up looking the best. So they're out there, right? And so that one will need an even slightly higher defense stat of 102.51. Now, are you going to be chasing this defense stat forever against Lickitung? I mean, these are all reined in with just a 10 attack IV. You know there are some Mavericks out there with like their 10, 14, 13s. I'm not telling them to run that. Ryan Swag is not recommending this high attack stat. They're just using it, right? So are you going to be prepared for this? You know, so for that reason, I feel like being mindful of that defense stat can be beneficial if you're trying to slay the widest variety of the Lickitung out there, because this can cost you the 0-0. In some cases, this might even cost you the 2-2 shield situation, which would be pretty embarrassing because you got that big attack stat so you can win, and now you're losing. What gives, right? So yeah, that's why this list is kind of cut the way it is. But if you are chasing those bigger fish, you know that you're like going to a play Pokemon tournament and you know there's like 3 guys in this tournament and they for sure got that rank 1 best buddy. Well, then you might want to be packing that uber high attack stat should you have it, sacrificing your defense to a point, right? Because even the rank 1 best buddy could get an attack break point on you. If you're thinking about dumping your HP, you really can't if you're trying to get the attack and the defense. Like, this is it. I could set this to 0 and like nothing else would show up. So you're stuck with this HP. Now, this isn't all about Lickitung either. Ironically enough, these stats also parallel some high-end Annihilape mirror situations. So Annihilape, a lot of the mirror matches are going to come down to charge move priority. If you got the high attack stat, well, then you're probably going to get that charge move priority, right? Well, if you're up against another very high attack weighted Annihilape, like another Lickitung Slayer looking Annihilape there, well, now there's a defense breakpoint that you could possibly get on each other. So if you're up against another like 127.2 attack weighted Annihilape, well, to protect yourself from their attack breakpoint, you need to have at least 103.38 on your defense. And if you're up against 127.5 attack weighted Annihilape, well, now you're looking at 103.61 on the defense. And then if you were to get that defense breakpoint and they don't get the defense breakpoint, then you get some Ice Punch specific tech on them, which can be fun. Like in the 2-2 shield situation, if you both throw the Shadow Balls and you're both shielding the Shadow Balls, the Ice Punches don't exactly KO, right? Because, well, yours will, theirs won't, because they're not getting the attack breakpoint on you. And then in that same kind of situation, if you don't even throw that KOing Ice Punch, you could even farm them down sometimes. Like 2-1 shield scenario, full farm after that first one. So that's pretty cool. And then in the 0-0 shield situation, Ice Punch only, while having that defense breakpoint, while they don't have the defense breakpoint, can play into your favor. Why would you do the 0-0 Ice Punch only? Well, like, I don't know, you guys have shields, but you threw Ice Punch trying to bait, it landed, it was an Ice Punch. They threw Ice Punch trying to bait, it landed, it was an Ice Punch, right? And that kind of idea carries forward. And, well, you're doing 1 more damage per fast move, they're doing 1 less damage per fast move, so you end up winning that situation. So it's just another thing to keep in the back of your mind when it comes to the Lickitung Slayer. If you're in a meta where there's Lickitungs and Annihilapes, you're going to want to be fortified for both the Lickitung and the Annihilape. So when it comes to the question of what the best Slayer is overall, it is kind of confusing because if you're chasing the Lickitungs, there's a lot to consider for both your attack and your defense weight based on the attack and defense of the Lickitungs that you're expecting to fight in the field. I feel like this whole list does a really good job of capturing the vast majority of likely Lickitung you'll be facing, but then when you also add in the whole mirror matchup situation, it really does have me favoring some of the higher defense weight options on the list here, just so you're that much more fortified against the mirror, and then you're also that much more fortified against like a rogue Lickitung or something. But there are going to be higher defense Lickitungs out there, and charge move priority does win the vast majority of mirrors, so you might be more satisfied with an attack weight that goes even further beyond what I have on this list. So keep your eyes peeled for those goofy, wacky, high attack weighted Annihilape out there. And then finally, we have the Ultra League. And I'd say for the Ultra League Annihilape, bulk is the main concern. But the minimum defense stat I have here is 134.5, and the minimum HP is 178. And that leaves a lot of wiggle room. Like, I have an attack weight on this list here of 159.7, and even with that, we have 83 different IV options. Some of them are even like raid weighted IV options, which is really nice for accessibility, right? You don't need to have this higher attack weight. Having just super high bulk will be perfectly fine for the Ultra League, but I felt that since these like minimums gave us so much room to work with, why not go for the higher attack weights? So I chose 134.5 for the defense cutoff because that's the defense stat that helps you get the 1-2 against the attack weighted Deoxys defense form from my Deoxys defense form PvP IV deep dive, and it also fortifies you against a 6-15-15 statted Greedent, right? Now when it comes to the rank 1 Greedent, 133.54 defense, perfectly a-okay. And it's not just all about the Greedent and the Deoxys defense form either. There is also the Steelix 0-0 shield situation and the Charizard 2-1 no bait shield situation. Now, those are like 133 at defense, right? But those Pokemon could very easily have higher attack weights. So I feel like overall, if I'm going to set a minimum, I might as well set it to something objective that makes sense, which is what brought me to the 134.5. When it comes to 178 HP, that's just been like a general consistency marker that I noticed throughout like a lot of matchups, just running basic simulations. Now moving on to the attack side of the force, 157 can get you a breakpoint on Tapu Fini, enabling the 2-1 and possibly the 2-2 shield scenario against this fairy type Pokemon that's usually walling fighters. And you even have potential in the 1-1 shield scenario if neither person is baiting. So just a lot more play against the Tapu Fini, which gives me the feeling that Annihilape may end up being a bit of a household name in the Ultra League going forward. Having greater than 159.59 on your attack can get you a breakpoint against Swampert, which cleans up the 0-0 and 2-2 shield situation. If you are up against higher defense iterations of Swampert, like the 0-15-12, then you'll need to have like a higher attack weight, like 160.44. If you're against the 0-15-8 Swampert, then 161.07, and so on. If you have 157.72 attack, then you can fully farm down Greninja in the 1-2 shield situation, which is pretty gnarly, right? You're a fighting type Pokemon, you're going to be beating Greninja anyways, but fully farming it, that's pretty disgusting, right? And if you checked out my Greninja PvP IV deep dive, link above in the description if you haven't checked it out yet, yeah, the 0-15-12 Greninja is my recommendation for the Ultra League, and for that one, you need to have a higher attack weight of 159.63. And then there's also a breakpoint against Shadow Gliscor in the 1/1 shield scenario, being able to flip that. If you have about 160 on your attack stat, obviously it's a Shadow Gliscor, so there's a good probability that it's got lower defense than the rank 1 defense, so you don't necessarily need that super high attack stat to begin with. But you know, this is the super high attack stat that's getting the Swampert breakpoint, it's getting you the Greninja breakpoint, so you're already here already. And if you want to go even higher, a little bit higher, you can get Talonflame charge move priority against the 15-15-15 Talonflame that's 160.4 on its attack stat. If you got higher than that, then you can get charge move priority, which it won't flip every single matchup situation, but if they've got like a Fly or a Brave Bird banked and you just farm down a Greninja, right? But you got no shields, they got no shields, so you're both throwing your charge moves as soon as you come out, and assuming that there's no one-turn lag ruining everything for somebody, well, now you got charge move priority. So very cool. Yeah, and you can see that here. I got attack stats that accommodate that. Overall, I wouldn't say that the uber high side of the attack stats are strictly better than the higher bulk weighted ones. And when it comes to all these different tech situations, I'd say aside from Tapu Fini, you know, the attack breakpoint isn't that big of a deal. So if you're more comfortable with a super high bulk weighted Annihilape for the Ultra League, that's probably going to be a-okay. Maybe keep your eyes peeled for the Tapu Fini breakpoint though. And then the other breakpoints, well, those are just gravy, and they're oh so sweet, and you don't really risk a whole lot in my opinion, so you may as well go for them if you got them. Now there is a even higher attack weight, and I mean, once again, charge move priority is going to be the name of the game for Annihilape, but if you do push above 164 attack, you can get a breakpoint on Venusaur, which can win the 0-0 and 1/1 shield scenario. I don't know how popular Venusaur is nowadays, and you will be risking your defense and your HP stat if you are pushing for that higher attack weight. But that is something to keep in mind. Like if you're gunning above this already because of charge move priority, you may as well go all the way and just wail on Venusaur a little bit harder should it show up. And once again, if you want to check out any of these PvP IV tables, I have them hyperlinked in the article on Game Press, which is linked below, the Annihilape PvP IV deep dive. And then finally, we have the Master League. You want to use the Hundo, right? It's the Master League, 15-15-15 all the way. Well, outside of the mirror matchup, 15 attack and 15 defense don't matter too much. If you got the 15 attack, then you get charge move priority, and then you also get a charge move breakpoint, which can help secure some mirror matchups, because you don't always KO on the Shadow Ball in the Master League, right? And same thing for the 15 defense. You could be denying an additional Shadow Ball breakpoint in the mirror matchup, which can let you survive a Shadow Ball so you can land your own Shadow Ball. So 14-14-14, passable, but, you know, 15-15 for the attack and defense, you might want to have those, right? When it comes to the HP, though, at level 50, the 15 HP IV is an empty HP stat. So the 14 IV, the 15 IV, it'll be the same exact HP, but if you do best buddy the Annihilape, then there'll be a 1 HP difference, which might not matter, but it could matter in the Kyogre 1/1 even Steven shield scenario. So if you're in that and you lose it, congratulations, buddy. You didn't have the 15-15-15 Annihilape there. I don't know. It's up to you how much you want to risk it. Like, it's a lot of Stardust. It's a lot of XL candy. I don't participate in the Master League because of these reasons, because like you really want to have the hundo. If you don't have the hundo, now you're risking it. How much are you going to risk it? How flexible do you want to be with your teams? So it's kind of a gross situation, but if you have an abundance of Stardust and you are willing to risk it, then 14-14-14 is probably fine as like a minimum, but definitely do want to have the higher IVs there. And if you go lower than that, then there's a lot of matchups you start running into problems with, so don't even think about asking me about your 12-15-15. You really want to have at least a 14 attack stat. And that wraps it up for Annihilape in all 3 leagues. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. I actually have enough information going now where I might be doing Skeledirge next, so keep your eyes peeled for our favorite gator. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. The cat has eaten!